The apartment building wasn't much to look at, but for Alex Turner, it was a step up. After years of bouncing between roommates and couch surfing, finally having a place to himself felt like a victory. Sure, the walls were thin, the hallways dimly lit, and the air carried a faint smell of mildew, but it was his. A space to start fresh, to build a life on his own terms. It wasn't long before Alex began noticing the man across the hall. The neighbor lived in 2B, directly opposite Alex's unit. A wiry, middle-aged man with unkempt gray hair and hollow eyes. He was always standing in his doorway or leaning against the wall in the hallway. He never said much, just stared. At first, Alex brushed it off. City apartments came with their share of odd neighbors. Maybe the guy was lonely or eccentric. But the staring never stopped. Every time Alex left his apartment, he'd find the man watching him. His door was always cracked open just enough for those pale, unblinking eyes to peek through. Alex started avoiding the hallway, timing his comings and goings to when it seemed like 2B might be empty. One night, Alex woke with a start. It was the faintest sound, a soft creak, like a footstep on wood. He froze, his heart pounding as he strained to listen. Nothing. He chalked it up to the old building settling, rolled over, and forced himself back to sleep. But it happened again the next night. And the next. By the third night, Alex was certain someone had been in his apartment. He found his keys moved from the counter to the kitchen table. A cabinet door he never opened was left ajar. "I'm losing my mind," he muttered, but the unease gnawed at him. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Alex bought a security camera and installed it in his living room, angled to capture the front door and the small hallway leading to his bedroom. That night, he set it to record and tried to sleep, though every creak of the building made his muscles tense. In the morning, he checked the footage. At first, there was nothing, just hours of an empty, silent apartment. But then, at 3:17 a.m., the door to his apartment opened. Alex's stomach dropped as he watched the grainy footage. The figure that stepped inside was unmistakable, his neighbor from 2B. The man moved silently, almost methodically, shutting the door behind him and pausing as if to listen. He walked to the kitchen, rummaging through drawers and cabinets, then wandered down the hall toward Alex's bedroom. Alex fast-forwarded the video, his breath hitching. The man stood at the edge of the bed for what felt like an eternity, watching him sleep. The footage ended with the man leaving at 4:05 a.m., the door clicking shut behind him. Alex felt a wave of nausea. Someone had been in his apartment, watching him. He debated what to do, call the police, confront the man, but a part of him hesitated. What if the neighbor retaliated? Instead, Alex decided to double lock his door and keep the camera running. The following night was worse. Alex barely slept, his body tense with fear. Every sound felt amplified, the hum of the refrigerator, the groan of the pipes. At 2:49 a.m., he heard the doorknob rattle. He grabbed his phone, his hands trembling, and pulled up the camera feed. There he was. The man from 2B, standing in the living room, his eyes fixed on the bedroom door. Alex's breath caught in his throat as he watched the man step closer. Summoning his courage, Alex flipped on the bedroom light and shouted, "Get out!" The man bolted, disappearing out the front door before Alex could reach him. The next morning, Alex stormed across the hall, pounding on the door of 2B. "Open up!" he yelled, his voice shaking with anger. "I know it's you." No answer. He banged again, harder this time. A neighbor down the hall poked her head out, frowning. "What's going on?" "That guy in 2B, Alex said, his voice frantic. "He's been breaking into my apartment." The woman's face twisted in confusion. "There's no one in 2B. That unit's been empty for months." Alex felt the world tilt beneath him. "That's impossible," he stammered. "I've seen him. He's always staring at me. He was in my apartment last night." The woman shook her head. "I don't know what to tell you. No one's lived there since Mr. Hansen passed away last year." "Mr. Hansen?" Alex asked, his voice barely a whisper. "The old man who used to live there," she explained, "died in his sleep. They haven't rented the place out since." Alex returned to his apartment, his mind reeling. He pulled up the footage from the night before, desperate for answers. But the file was gone. Every recording from the camera had been erased, as if it had never existed. He checked the camera settings, his heart racing, but there was no explanation. That night, Alex sat in his locked apartment, a knife in his lap and every light on. But the man never returned. Eventually, Alex moved out, unable to shake the lingering dread that had settled over him. Years later, he would still wake in the middle of the night, certain he could feel someone watching him. And every so often, when he glanced at his window, he swore he saw a pair of hollow eyes staring back. The end.